All right, it's time for your world. Let me introduce myself. My name is Olive Barrow, sitting in for Winnie Lubembe, and with me in studio this morning, I have Daniela Nyakuraya. She's the Unit Housing Manager, Safaricom Investment Cooperative, and together we'll be looking at how technology is impacting the real estate sector. We're having a lot of conversations now around the issue of affordable housing, etc. So a lot of interest now in the area of real estate. But first, perhaps you could begin by telling us what it is a unit housing manager does.
So thank you so much, Olive, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm Daniela, as you've said, and I'm the unit manager housing for Safaricom Investments Cooperative. What that means is that I'm generally in charge of the housing department. So we generate affordable housing products for our clients, be it the general public or members of SIC being Safaricom Investments Cooperative. So yes, I'm in charge of the housing department there. Thank you so
all right,
much.
Interesting. I do know Safaricom deals in that area.
Yeah, we have an investment cooperative that has been in the business for about 12 years now. We started selling land, now we are doing housing as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, how has technology impacted this sector?
I could start by saying technology generally is anyhow you use scientific knowledge to ease your processes in daily life. And maybe in the real estate industry in Kenya right now, we are in a very unique space because we are a developing country. At the same time, we have a very huge need for housing and decent housing, because what we've been having mostly is very indecent housing in terms of slums, buildings collapsing. So right now we are trying to formalize the market. So you will find that to make the most out of what we have, Kenyans have come up with very innovative ways of delivering housing and also real estate, basically, because there's definitely, naturally, there's a shortage of resources in everything: land, money, time. So these are the things that have brought up the need for use of technology. So if we start with simple things like even when you're developing a concept for a house, or when you're coming up with a project, how you get your data analysis, that's a huge thing in technology right now. Just analyzing your people, knowing who are you building for, where are they, how much can they afford, what are their pain points, where do you get them, how do you reach out to them, where do they want these houses at, if they even own them at all. So that's one of the things that has been very huge in real estate right now. You will find that most of the major real estate developers are really huge on data and analyzing and understanding their clients. So then you find that they also have different sectors and segments of real estate products. They have affordable, they have high-end, they have mid-market, because they are really understanding who they are building for and the different areas in which they are building. Then we go on to things like even getting the market to accept your product. So things like how you advertise, how you reach out to them, virtual reality clips. So you find that you can experience the house you want to buy through a video, a virtual reality video. And that gives you a lot of confidence, even as the person who's buying, that you understand what you're buying into. You can say this space is too little, maybe we would go for something bigger. So then the real estate developer as well is able to understand what their market wants and what their market is ready for. This then also extends when you're doing maybe the back end of what the government is doing now, even in coming up with rates of how much your house should be per square meter if it's for this market. That's a lot of analysis, and that's a lot of technology you use in getting into that, because you look at patterns of what has been done before, what has failed, then you analyze all that. It's a good way of also making decisions in the real estate industry, because you know that maybe if I build in 18 months as compared to 24 months, this will have changed in the market. And that means then maybe we can't afford this and that. So even analyzing what the government is doing, the trends they're coming up with, even the way now, like right now when you're submitting buildings for approval or drawings for approval, you don't do it manually. You do it technologically, you just upload it on a site and then it's approved. It's a very beautiful way of even the government analyzing how is the population growing. Maybe let's say if you're dealing with Kiambu County, we have 30 drawings submitted for commercial buildings. We have 30 for residential. So what does that tell you about how the economy in that place is growing? What does it tell you about how much infrastructure then as the government you'd need to input in that area, or even how much the people are expecting out of the government, let's say in terms of water, power, roads, sewage. So all these things also inform you as a real estate developer in analyzing trends. Maybe let's say if you find out like in this area, there have been 30 residential buildings coming up, that informs you that the residential developments are ripe for that area, and the people who are willing to take up that area. And maybe now you need to do something better because also the competition is high in that area, something better to get the most out of your products. So those are some of the areas in which technology has helped the market. That's on the market side. And then on the construction side, we've had a lot of developments in terms of prefabrication, technology. I could mention, for instance, we have a project in Ruaka called the Miran Residence, where we're using aluminium formwork technology. That, in essence, helps you to come up with a building in no time at all. And it's also very precise. So you're giving quality to your buyers. You're also giving them something that's timely, because we've had an issue where people buy things off plan in the real estate sector. Then 5 years down the line, you still don't have what you bought. So we are delivering something in a very timely manner and in a very precise manner. It cuts down on our side on labor costs, because you don't have then to do things like plastering if you're going into the business of how much time you'd need to do it, how much labor you'd need on site. So that saves a lot. So yeah, those are some of the crucial areas in which technology has really helped.
All right. Is there a trust deficit in some instances? Because you've talked about you can take a virtual tour of what the property would look like at the end of the day. You've also talked about how, you know, sometimes people wonder, okay, so when is this project coming to a conclusion? Is there a trust deficit? How do you bridge it, given that people, if you know, for those who buy land, wanataka kuona hiyo mugoda iko wapi, you know, they want to make sure it's not owned by somebody else, and they're not getting into a mess. Even in the real estate sector, do you encounter this trust deficit? Yeah,
I can say there is, and you can blame the market for that. It's because of how the industry has been for a while now, where people make promises and people invest and they don't get what they invest in. So the thing is also you need to build the trust, because if there's no trust, then you can't advance so much. And it's something like real estate. It's something that at the end of the day, your mistakes will be seen. Be it land, if you promise someone there's land somewhere and then there's no land, clearly there's no land. Same as for a house. If you tell someone this will be this big, and then when they get it, it's finally a very little unit. You can't lie. Those are problems you can't hide. So you have a lot to do in building trust with the market, and it's good for them to buy into your ideas. So even in land projects, because we do have that as well at SIC, we try a lot to also bring our clients to the ground. But even without that, for those who are in the diaspora, we use technology to tell them this is what we're selling, this is where it is, this is how we are going to develop it, and then we give them weekly updates to just build the trust in the market, because you don't want a situation where someone has invested in you. Normally there are some hitches here and there that would take maybe a month or more, but when they have the confidence in that you're delivering, then you are in a good space. All
right. And how has technology, because you've talked about the diaspora, how has technology enabled you to tap into that market?
I could say that it's made it like almost like we're all in the same region, because then you're able to access them easier. There are webinars you can hold if you're doing a construction, if it's a Q&A on what you're doing, also giving them updates. It's quite seamless. You talk, you send them newsletters, everything. It just makes it very seamless, and as well as getting feedback from them, because you see, it's one thing to tell them what you're doing, but it's another thing to also take what they're telling you. So maybe let's say you have a virtual reality video of something you're constructing, or even you've done something and you send them a video. Just getting that feedback is also very important, because it also allows them to continue investing with you more, because they know that you listen and you're doing something about it. So yes.
All right. And for those, what has the uptake been like, even, let's speak locally, in terms of people seeking out information on properties online and it eventually translating to purchases or commitments? Has there been a technology-enabled rise?
I could say that generally now the generation in Kenya, the buying generation in Kenya is very different from maybe what it was earlier. People now tend to ask questions. They tend to want to know what they're getting themselves into. So yes, there has been a lot of questions coming in and a lot of insights or maybe queries, I could say, and people want to be really sure of what they are getting themselves into, whether they are able to see it physically or not. So technology has helped us in that area where we're able to satisfy all their needs. And then we've seen a lot of conversions, even from things like telephone calls, where we advertise and someone sees it, they call, they ask us to take a video for them, we send it, they ask us to take progress photos, we send that, and they actually buy into it because then they know, they are confident that it's actually happening. Yeah.
So has technology enabled essentially the real estate sector to grow?
Yes, yes, it has. Yes, it has. And I think it has also regularized just how much people can get into, because maybe regularized is not the right word, I could say. Protected the consumers more, because then now a person can ask questions and there's no reason why you wouldn't give them an answer. If they ask for a video, there's all sorts of ways to send videos now. So there's no way you'd hide information from them. So it has also protected the consumer and at the same time brought up a spike in how much it has helped us to sell. Yes, so I could say yes, it has helped a lot.
So it has had a transformative power.
Yes, yeah.
All right. And so how do people go about, you're saying majority of people now, when they're looking for a property to invest in or to live in, the first port of call is, are you saying the internet?
I could say yes, or maybe social media as well, not just the internet. No. Okay, social media is part of the internet, essentially. Yeah, so I could say they start by actually browsing and looking for something. Maybe they know essentially what they would like, but they don't know the exact thing. So they start looking around, and the first point of contact nowadays when you're looking for something is always the phone, the computer. It's just the internet, it's technology basically. So it's what comes to them first and what convinces them first that would be the thing they then follow. So technology also has helped in that a lot, because it has, when someone is looking for something, even for something as simple as a rental property, you'll find someone just Googling first before they even try to walk around as they would have kitambo back then, to walk around and try to see where they can get the property. They start by Googling and checking, are there things here? What are the prices there? So having your products also there as a developer helps you a lot in visibility, and it gives you a lot of trajectory in the market. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And how has it transformed now? Because we've talked a lot about the market aspect of things, but vitu kwa ground, so in the construction, and you talked about the property you have, I mean the property development in Ruaka Miran, you said?
The Miran residence.
So you say it has brought down the cost of the cost and time, because you talked about scarcity of resources as well. Has this translated into more accessible housing?
Yeah, I could say it has. Also, maybe not necessarily more affordable, because other things have gone up in the market, especially in the real estate industry. These starting from last year, there's been a huge spike in construction materials. But what it has done is that it has made things generally regularized in terms of, you won't see a huge spike from when you start constructing to when you're done constructing, because you're using a technology that then allows you to do, like what we're using right now. Maybe I could start by defining what we're using is a technology that just allows you to use aggregate. So that's just cement, water, and ballast. Yeah. So then you're not so exposed to things that spike up in maybe cement and fuel. So in that way you're protected. But I could also say, even bringing it generally into the larger market, even though the government is trying to do now with affordable housing, if they use technology, then that means that you're able to deliver quickly, so that you're not exposed too much to the macroeconomic factors that are happening outside you as a project. So then you're able to lock your prices even for your consumers. If you tell them that this house is going for maybe 5 million, even when you're done constructing, you can still sell it at 5 million, as compared to a situation where you start at 5 million, but by the time you're done, because you're using the conventional methods, you still have labor, a lot of time, and things are changing in the market, then your prices may have gone up and you're not able to sell it at the price you initially started at. Yeah.
All right. So what is usually the biggest cost
in construction?
Yes.
It could be the materials. The materials could be because that you can't change. If it is a bag of cement, you still need to use that bag of cement. Either way, that you can't change a lot of. So the things you can play around with are time and labor, and how you manage your other costs, like Mostly it's time that you can manage a lot using technology because it shortens the amount of construction time. But construction materials are the hugest cost in any construction project. Yeah.
Even prefabricated material?
Even prefabricated materials, in the sense that the capital cost when you're starting is very heavy because you'd have to buy the whole kits and the whole setup. Yeah. Then maybe the running costs after that become very cheap because then you don't have to invest again in the kit itself or in the setup itself. Yeah.
All right. So it's not the land, it's not the finishing.
The land, no, especially land in Kenya is very highly priced, so that's a huge cost there. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, in terms of financing, has technology eased that in any way? Made the processes easier?
In terms of financing, like getting financing for your house? Yeah, it's twofold really. I could say it has done that because what it has done is you're able to, let me speak about it first from the consumer side of things. There's been a lot coming in terms of mortgages, cheap mortgages for the consumers in Kenya, and also banks have had to compete now with the mortgages the government is bringing in through KMRC, the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company. So with that also and coming up with new products, it has helped in terms of users gaining access to finance if they want to buy a house. On the other end, as real estate developers, there's been a lot of money coming in also from other countries just for construction finance. So yes, it has helped in the way you can structure a project in terms of how many funds you'd use from your pockets, and also how much you can get from outside there just to make the finance move fast. Because other than the banks in Kenya, there are other outside investors, potential investors from outside who are coming in and investing in real estate. So that has also helped. Yeah.
And does it help me as the buyer track the progress easier?
Of course it does, because once a project has financing, there's really no reason why it would not be done quickly. Yeah? And then also other things like information are easier to access because everything is running as it should. So even for the buyer, it's easier to track progress. And also as the buyer, if the project you're investing in is moving fast, even on your financing side, the bank it's easier for the bank to actually give you a mortgage because they know by around August we should have the product, you should have the unit ready. So everything else they do, it's not where they're speculating, like maybe we'll wait till December to see if she qualifies or not. So it's easier, of course, yeah.
All right. Yeah. And how has it facilitated the players to work more in a streamlined fashion?
Because there's a lot of competition and a lot of information out there, really. You can't dupe people into things that were happening before, where there are pockets of information, where someone doesn't have access. Right now, you'll even find buyers coming to our projects and they have more guided questions. Like they'll ask you real pertinent questions like, are these walls this type? Are they doing this? How are you managing your service? Because they know, because technology has made them aware of the things that happen in real estate. So they will ask you real questions. So even you as a developer, you really have to be on top of your game. You can't, there's no more monopoly of information. Everyone knows what they're getting into. So you also forced to regularize, because as well there's something else the government is introducing called the real estate bill. It hasn't passed yet, but this is supposed to regularize all players in the real estate industry. What you promise versus what you deliver should always be the same, and you should give your buyers or whoever is investing with you quality. So in that way, with all that information out there, even the buyers can see that there are these things the government is doing, so they even know what to look out for when they are coming to your site. At the same time, on the county side, when you're getting into when most of our buyers are also getting into investments with us, they ask to do due diligence on their side. They check if we have all the approvals, if we have lab tests on our materials, just to check that everything is okay. And all this information is accessible online. So technology has helped in regularizing the industry a lot, because now you can't act like people don't know what you're doing. You really just have to do the right thing, because someone will have access to that information sooner rather than later. Yeah.
So you're dealing with a more informed
and more demanding market, in terms of they want to know as well what you're telling them. Is it true? Yeah.
All right. So we need to take a break, but when we come back, there's also now people are better able to express their dissatisfaction on account of technology. Children all around Kenya rely on water from unsafe sources, and Colgate is asking you to change this. Just a little water can make a big difference. For every pack of Colgate you buy exclusively at Naivas, you help build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 Kenyans. Give a helping hand. Shop at your nearest Naivas store or online at naivas.co.ke. For more information on the campaign, go to Colgate Kenya's Facebook page or wellboring/colgate.com. Terms and conditions apply. We take a break, but Daniela and I will be back with issues, tech and real estate on the other side of the break.
Furahia maisha bora, linda jamii yako, linda biashara yako. Chukua bima leo. Tuna bima ya maisha, afya na ajali, mali hata elimu. Chukua bima leo. Linda jamii yako, linda biashara yako. Chukua bima leo. Tuna bima ya maisha, afya na ajali, mali hata elimu. Chukua bima leo.
Hello, come on, sweetheart.
You like calling me late at night?
Because I'm a busy man, and you know I have to hustle for you, baby.
Then promise me this time you will marry me. You know it's been 6 years of dating.
I will marry you soon. You know I am building our future here in Japan.
Aye, but sinilona stories zako uko Nairobi.
That is editing, baby. You know I'm an editor.
Anyway, unaongea na nani kwa simu sahi saa 8 na mimi ni bibi yako? Haya.
Calm down, mama watoto.
To get Baba Fanuel Flatty, dial *812*807#. Skiza.
I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Nation Media Group and all the partners that will make providing sanitary towels to our girls, especially in the informal settlements and mission-based schools, free sanitary towels. So please join in and support this cause, because we know much as the government is providing a budget to provide sanitary towels, it is never enough. Let's end period poverty, let's give dignity to our girls, and let's make our girls go out there and not be ashamed of being on period, but being bold enough to say, I'm on my period and I have my sanitary towels. This will also help curb and end teenage pregnancies, because a lot of girls out there are being influenced to engage in sexual activity for sanitary towels. So let's team up together as a country, as citizens, to ensure we end period poverty.
You are watching Your World in association with Colgate.
right, welcome back to Your World. We are delving into matters technology and its impact on the real estate sector. And during the break, I was asking Daniela, and for those of you who've just joined us, her name is Daniela Nyakuraya, and she is the Unit Housing Manager, Safaricom Investment Cooperative. Daniela, if I am dissatisfied, I know I can take to my Facebook, or I can take to my Twitter and express my dissatisfaction, and then perhaps it'll gain some traction and be shared on WhatsApp or something. But is there an institution that protects the consumer in this case?
In terms of dissatisfaction, really?
Yes.
Maybe the Consumer Federation of Kenya, but it hasn't been that outspoken in terms of dissatisfaction in real estate, mostly maybe due to the regularization of the market itself, where in some cases where someone gets into something fraudulent, it's a case of willing buyer, willing seller at times. But also you'll see that the government is doing a lot through the county governments in making sure that the consumers are not dissatisfied and are not duped, and what you promise them is what you're giving. These in terms of approvals, they come and check the quality tests. Also NCA does a lot on, that's the National Construction Authority, does a lot on checking that the contractors you're using, the consultants are using, are actually registered and they know what they are doing, and the things that are being done during the construction are the right things that should be done, so that we don't have people buying houses and then the house collapses, or rather maybe also you need a lot to maintain it and you already bought it. So those have been checks that the government is doing in making sure that the construction industry is regularized there.
Okay. And is there a registry I can access at the touch of a button, so to speak, to ensure that the people I am investing with are actually legitimate?
Currently, there isn't anything like that. At the touch of a button, no. But I do know that the Lands Registry is coming up with a way of keying in all the data on land. This is especially for land projects where you're buying land, and you could see the land you're buying. You can tell where it is. You can actually take yourself there, as opposed to having the person selling the land to you taking you there. So you can actually get there, see how it is, and you're also able to check whether the documents are right through due diligence. When you're buying into something, it's always good to do some due diligence on your side and you're able to make sure everything is going on well.
All right. Yeah. And what are the opportunities? Because that is one opportunity in which to leverage technology to grow the real estate sector. What other opportunities are there to exploit?
I think, especially just coming from the COVID pandemic, there's been a lot of change in how we use spaces. Mostly during the COVID times, people are working from home. So that's something that can really be pursued, where you design something to have more than one use. It can be a house, it can be an office. Also, it cuts down on cost, because we don't have so much money right now in the economy to have an office there, have a house there. So just ways to make sure that the spaces you're developing can be used in more than one way. Also a way to build something that's very wholesome, so that if someone is in a residential area, you also give them something for their kids. You give them a hospital, you give them this and that. Just ways to make sure that it's a very wholesome experience for people who are buying into what you're selling, yes. Yeah.
All right. And I'm curious, in the design of these properties, do you now have to factor in technology and how technology would be used in that space?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. There's something called smart homes, where we do a lot of automation just to make sure, like, if you leave your water running, we switch it off, because who wants to pay a huge wage bill just because, you left your water running? Also things on security, where we have alarms and a way to know that, like a camera to tell even when you're at work, someone is intruding into your house, or this and this has happened. You leave your kids at home, you can be very insecure about what's happening to them. So a way to check in and also to monitor your developments and your property while you're still far away. That's one of the things that technology has really helped in.
And are a lot more people looking at?
Yes. It's even something that even the consumers are asking you for. When you're selling a house, they're asking what automations are here, what do we have in the general. If it's like a master planned community, do we have CCTVs, do we have generators, do we have this and that? Do we have a way to even check our bills, even us as consumers, as opposed to you telling us this is how much you've used? Do they have a way to also monitor them using a phone to check how much have I used? Also things like piped gas. just a way to make sure that even the service charge of those people you're bringing into the house are kept at a low, and they're actually in their control. And that also means that you're able to give them more value for what they're buying into. Yeah.
Interesting, because nowadays there are certain things that are at a very bare minimum for many households that are able, including there are those who will Wi-Fi connection, you know, access to such like technology. So when you're designing these houses, these are things you take into account.
These are givens right now, basics in the market. Something like Wi-Fi and internet connectivity, that's a given thing. You can't do that right now. As I said, right now the market is very informed. It's not something you can tell them is an add-on at an extra cost. It's something that's given, because even the way the world is growing, you can't live without internet right now, and that's technology in itself. So that's something you have to give to your buyers for them to get value out of what you're giving them. Yeah.
All right, and you mentioned the considerations where security is concerned. But for those, and speaking of security and securing investments, for those in the diaspora, what would be your advice to them when they're shopping online for an investment, for somewhere to settle, should they come back to the country? In using that space, what would be your advice to them? Because a lot of people, I imagine, are afraid of being taken advantage of, fraudsters.
I could advise to always do due diligence before you get into something. Just make sure that the people you're getting into it with have been there for long. And when a company is trustworthy, they have no problem giving you the information you'd ask for. So maybe a certificate of incorporation, checks on if it's maybe a construction you want to invest in, has it been approved? Who are the lawyers handling it? How much information can I get out of beyond now the person you're buying it from the public space? How much can I Google and get? Can you get a lawyer to do for you some due diligence? And then also, if you're investing into something and it's not, you see, something like a house it's not ready today, it's good for you to ask questions like, are they putting this money in an escrow account where if something happens and you don't get your house, you can get back your money? So, and also monitoring the progress of the house. And asking for things like statements from your developer. Is your developer a trustworthy developer? And one of the ways to know that they are is to just check for how long they have been in the market. Also check their website. There's a lot of feedback that you get if you're in the space. There's always a lot of feedback, even on social media. You can check what I'm posting about this developer. It will tell you a lot that you need to know on whether to get in with them or not to. Yeah.
Okay. And technology has made all of this easier.
Yes.
All right. Who do we benchmark against? And as we answer that, what are some of the trends in the real estate sector where technology is concerned?
I think we'd benchmark a lot against countries that are ahead of us. And in speaking of this, I don't mean like very developed nations, because maybe it would be a skip there. But I mean countries like Egypt. Egypt has done a lot in housing their citizens, a lot. And they've done this in a very progressive manner, where even in the mapping of, this is something else that technology can help us do, in the mapping of their urban cities, they actually put aside a place for just affordable housing. And the government makes sure that there are contractors who are banked with them and who do the construction for them, such that now it's not open to the outside market. Because you see, if it's open to the outside market, then it's just fair play. It's just the person who will get the most out of it. So use of technology, also mapping out our towns, making sure that there's a lot of urban planning going in. The areas we set apart for residential actually can perform as residential areas, in such that even the kids who grow up there have a wholesome life. So those are some of the trends we should be looking out for. Egypt has done a really good job at that, and they continue to do it because, and then they also have ways of making the housing they come up with very affordable for their people, because the government then takes control of it. Because you see, the government, once it takes control, then it can regularize a lot. So those are some of the things I think we can use in Kenya to pick up on. And also in technology, as I had said earlier, various uses of a space is a huge thing right now. So even though you have an office, do you need another space for a meeting? No. How can you design this space to be an office and as well as a meeting, so you're not incurring so much space, so much cost as a user to have an office, then you have another meeting room and another one, and there's all these. Also how to connect such that a house is plug and play, that you have access, even from your house, you have access to your job, you have access to what is happening out there. This is in the internet of things, you know, just making sure that you create a lot of accessibility for your users to beyond the space that you're giving them. Yeah.
All right, and I'm curious because, like you mentioned, during COVID, a lot of people were not, or rather, the time spent in offices was limited or restricted. How has that impacted the sector now? Because, like you said, people, I get what you mean about spaces having more than one, serving more than one purpose. Has that changed the types of properties you look at developing moving forward?
Yeah. Actually, from last year, the major real estate sectors that grew are residential and warehousing. So that should tell you a lot that people are living in their houses and they're also asking for a lot of things to be stored for them. And also a lot of ordering online is happening such that someone can be able to access something from the United States. It's warehouse somewhere for you for a while, then it comes to you. And commercial spaces really went down in terms of in the profitability of them. There's a lot of office space that hasn't been picked up. So that should also tell you the trends that people are moving towards, that a lot of more time is being spent also in remote jobs, and also warehousing is a huge thing right now, where we are able to transport things, keep them for a while, not incur so much costs, and then use them when we really just need to. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And you're saying this is an account of people being able to order online and such?
Order online, and also the fact that people are also now, it's basically order online and also have a lot of visibility on many things. So you can just see something online, figure out, I would like this, and it's brought to you. So where it's stored for a while before it comes to you is a major thing, so warehousing. And also I think if I look at it in a different way, even for commercial spaces like retail centers, they don't want to take very huge spaces because those are very expensive. So they'd rather store their goods in a warehouse than only ask for them on order just when they need them. So they don't have a huge space. They can tell you, yes, we have that in our warehouse, we can get it to you if you want it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell me, in terms of the potential moving forward, in terms of technology, where I know you've done the comparison with Egypt and how it does that, but I know you said we'd have to skip before we get to the developed world per se.
Yeah.
But what potential do you view in this space?
I view, or maybe envision is a better word. I envision a place where the real estate industry in Kenya is really able to deliver to what our market needs. There's a very huge classification of the market in Kenya. There's the social housing for those who can't really afford so much. There's affordable housing for those with a little more money to spend. There's mid-market, and then there is high-end. And all these, we have all these in Kenya. That's the beauty of it. So the thing is to understand through the use of analyzing our people and analyzing the data we have in our hands to understand what these different markets need and deliver for them. And then make sure that what we are doing is sustainable even beyond our years, because a lot of what we are doing now should be beneficial even to future generations, to make sure that what we are doing even in real estate, in infrastructure, exceeds our lifetimes, and it's something that's good for the country in the long run. So I think we need to do a lot of analysis, and this is all technologically enabled, and also understand where people are coming from and what they would need. Then find a sweet spot where we deliver for everyone in the country.
All right. Yeah. And in land is a factor of
real estate.
Yeah. That is ever more scarce. And this country is a country that has had issues with urban planning and the like.
Yeah.
What if there's no more land to buy, or you don't foresee that situation? Do you foresee a situation where, like the president is attempting to do, certain areas are designated for residential developments, commercial developments, and the rest is used for farming? How does that usually factor in when you're planning your projects out?
Yeah. And there's a lot of, I would say there's also a lot of regeneration that needs to happen in the country, because you'll find that, especially if you take an instance of Nairobi, the main residential areas around Nairobi are maybe not that densely populated. Then you find that guys have to travel further out just to get to residential spaces. So a lot of regeneration has to happen, where we say, okay, let's adjust to what our market is telling us. If maybe South Sea couldn't take 5 floors up, right now the market needs us. Let's redesign it and see how best to achieve that for our market and still give value for those who are living there.
All right. And what about the state of the supporting infrastructure? You know, for example, in Kilimani, there were complaints that, you know, this is just high-rise. These are high-rise slums because the sewer system is not equipped to handle this level of development and the like. How do you handle such situations?
I think that's more of it has to be more community-based. Like even the developers have to come together and say, we are going to do this. I know there's a lot that's happening on that in Kiambu County, where even on sewage and water, because you don't want everyone having their own borehole in their development, and then we have 50 boreholes because we have 50 houses. So it also calls for a lot of cooperation and collaboration between the various people in that area to come up together and say we want to do this in a good way, and to agree that maybe we need to just invest more in the infrastructure other than just putting up the house, invest more in the infrastructure around it to make sure that it is more sustainable. Also, the government is doing a lot of that because what they are doing, I think, is analyzing just how much the areas are growing and then fixing the output of those areas according to the developments that are happening there. So you'll find like in areas like, let's pick for instance, Rwaka. They've been doing a lot of sewage connections because there have been, over the years, maybe the last 5 years, there's been enormous growth in Rwaka, and there hasn't been the infrastructure to support it. So you'll notice that they've done the roads, they've done the power, they've done water, and now they're doing sewage. So it's both a government and a private problem that we all have to come together and make sure that we do it well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with the opening up of the country, because, you know, previously we had this rural to urban migration, people looking for jobs, but now with devolution, there's a lot of opportunity within the counties. So have you tapped into that market? Has there been an uptick for homes outside of the city center? And also in that vein, there's been talk of, you know, we don't need houses because we have our own houses. You know, has there been a shift?
Yes, there has. And also this is very technologically driven because people also don't feel the need to come to town just to get everything. So there's been a lot of people who just, they're okay with living where they live, you know, in the rural areas because they get everything there. If it's something they need, they can order for it online. In terms of construction, we've seen a lot of land also being sold, especially land, not so much housing as at the moment, but land also being sold in other areas other than Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu, which are the major drivers of anything in the country. And also you will see that the government, being a leader in the market, has also started doing affordable housing projects in other areas. Like recently the president was in Embu, so that should tell you about the growth that's in those areas when with the county government happening. And also in terms of technology, in these rural areas nowadays, when you visit there, you find people are using solar, people have internet, people have all these things. So just also how to play into that market, that even in the real estate industry, even if you're constructing for someone who's in Nanyuki, you're still giving them the same things that you should give them technologically for them to be empowered there. Yeah.
All right. And are off-grid solutions more in demand? Because you've talked about solar power, for instance.
Yeah. Yes, they are. With the high cost of living, people are always looking for easier ways or cheaper ways to get what they need. So a lot of solar and green building is something else that's really coming up in Kenya. Also with the impacts of global warming, there have been a lot of regulations imposed on the real estate industry. So let's say if you're doing, I think right now it's at 2 bedrooms. If you have 2 bedrooms, you have to have solar panels, because then we can't power all that using electricity. So there's also been a lot of information coming from the government on how we should do things so that we are protecting our environment, yes.
Now that's interesting.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay, so you're saying when you have a 2-bedroom, you can't power that with?
When you have a 2-bedroom, a bulk, like a number of apartments, you have to have solar panels. That's the least. So 1-bedroom studios, they will let that pass without solar, but 2 bedrooms going forward, because that means you're also using more power, because it means you have more people in the house essentially, they will ask you to have solar panels, a certain quantity of them.
All right.
Yeah.
And how have the economic realities of the day, because you talked about cost of living is high in ETC. But how does that impact the uptake of properties? Does it reflect when people have less disposable income?
Yes, it does, and it brings about something that, as in the real estate, call it the market is correcting itself. At sometimes you'll notice that even land is going for cheaper than it was initially, because then people really just have to buy for what it's worth. They don't have so much money to spend. You also, if you're the buyer, if you're the seller, you also don't want to wait for so long before you buy, before you sell it off. So you have to calm down a little. So it has brought about an adjustment in the market. And I think there's been a report done that showed that, especially for the higher end areas in real estate, there was a decrease in growth and decrease in uptake. But then for the lower areas, the lower market areas, there's an increase, because now people really needed to have houses. And that's still something that, for the lower market areas, it's still just a basic need. Yeah? They would still have to buy the house. So they are not so much looking into the quality or into the amenities they get into that. They're looking into the space. So for that, there's still been a growth, because there's also population growth. But then for the high-end areas where there's so much attached to the cost of the house you're getting, people have come back down, where they're saying, I may not be able to afford this, let me move to a cheaper area. So there's been both sides, where the higher end has seen a decrease and the lower end has just been constantly growing.
All right. Yeah. And in terms of access to information, even as real estate developers, is it easier with technology now? There's talk of the digitization of the land registry and all of that. Has that actually been affected? Has it been making your life easier?
I could say yes, because especially in terms of approvals, it's much easier right now, because you don't have to go to the county government. You don't have to print all these large papers that we used to have to do kitambo, or wait there for 50 hours before your file, they can locate your file if it's in the land registry. So right now it's easier to also get your things done for you as a developer, even in terms of getting licenses, even in terms of filing your returns, because it's easier. It's all in sort of in one space, so it's easier for you to also get your approvals and move forward. Yeah.
All right. And this affordable housing plan, will it eat into your markets? Are you concerned about that?
And we are very many in Kenya, and as I said, even in those big segments, there are smaller segments. There are these people who would want maybe a house at 5 million, other person that might it at 8 million, but they are generally basically in the same bracket. So, and the market will never lie. So it's good for you to also do your analysis as a developer, but I think there's huge potential in Kenya, being that it's a growing economy. Most of our population is very young, so they are looking to own houses, essentially. So there are many areas in which we can grow. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. I've had with me in studio Daniela Nyakuraya. She is the Unit Housing Manager, Safaricom Investment Cooperative. And is this open to everybody, or is it restricted to, do I have to work at Safaricom? Or?
No. It's open to the general public. And actually, most of our members are also the general public. So you don't have to be a part of PLC to join the corporation. No.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been good hosting you this morning. Thank you for sharing your insights on technology and its impact on real estate. Kenya, what if we told you that your smile can help those next to you? Colgate is helping to provide clean drinking water so that our children can have a bright future by staying in school. For every pack of Colgate that you buy at your nearest Naivas store over the next 2 months, you're helping to build 30 water wells that will provide clean water for 120,000 people. Now, that's something to smile about. Visit the Colgate Kenya Facebook page, or visit the website on Well Boring, that is WELL, Well Boring, BORING/Colgate.com for more information. Terms and conditions apply. That's it for Your World. My name is Olive Burrows, but I am not going anywhere, because at 9 a.m. the judiciary has promised to deliver its judgment on the position of Chief Administrative Secretary. I do beg your pardon, I'm told the time has changed to 2:30, so we'll bring you that judgment live. So allow me then to say, have yourself a good day.
Your World, in association